The other night, probably night 32 of the Portland protest, 32, 33, they were acting up again on North Interstate and North Lombard here in Portland, Oregon. I was out there recording tonight, the activities that were taking place, and pretty soon I heard someone coming through the crowd saying, "Give me an A, hey, give me an oh, if you can hear me, holler back."
Failure to comply with this lawful order may subject you to arrest and force, to include crowd control munitions. Move to the east.
Let me talk! I turn the camera around and I see this young lady walking up. And so I want to ask her, what were you doing there in the middle of this protest gathering on that night?
Yeah, I don't know. I was there. So I got a phone call from a cousin of mine who said, "Okay, you guys be careful on your way home. They're protesting again." And like something in my core just said, "All right, that's it. You know, you just take it down, you slam it down. Like I've had enough." You know. And so I said, "You know, I'm going to that. I'm going." And she's like, "Oh God, like I don't like a phone call. Something happened." And I'm like, "Oh, it's gonna be just fine." The friend, my buddy I was with, didn't have the slightest clue where we were going. And so when I got there, I seen all the people. And I noticed that there were very few black people there. And I seen that there were garbage cans being thrown all over the place. And people were, you know, yelling and cussing. I too, and it was just frustration. The vibe, the spirit there was just so dark, you know. And I knew that there were other people driving, cars honking, trying to get through. And it was just like I had had enough. And I was trying to get everyone to calm down, just to calm down and stop and like rationally think about it. You know, I learned that you can't always react, but you can respond to situations. And so I feel as though that was a reaction. They were reacting to whatever it was that they were dealing with, whether it was because we couldn't have the gay pride parade, or if it was because of Black Lives Matter, or if it was just a bunch of people that had other things going on internally that just wanted to have a behavioral moment. And also, too, not to discredit, right? Like, I value the people that went out and protested. I value the ones that were actually out there legitimately saying, "Hey, no, look, we're doing this because laws have changed, statutes have changed, people are changing because we're doing this." And it kind of reminded me of like shock art. You know, when you look at art, you'll walk out in the middle of nowhere and you'll see like this huge, like a naked Jesus of a chocolate fountain. You know, and it was just to get the artists that did it just to get people's response, right? And it was shocking, but yet captivating. And so I give credits to those that were out there protesting with a reason and a purpose, because one thing anybody that will tell you that knows me, I'll fight behind what's right, but I'll die behind what I believe in. So if that's something that everybody that was, or most of the majority of that was there, did that out of their belief, their course foundation, I applaud them. But there's another way to go about it, and that's to respond to it. Let's look at the bigger picture, and that's what I was trying to get everyone's attention, to just stop for a second, because if we're doing this for the human race, let's think about the officers that have badges right now. I can name a couple of them that are not black, that would never shoot a black person intentionally to kill them, right? And so if you want to be heard, then you can't. My grandmother always told me that the quieter you speak, the more people will listen, you know. And so that being said, going out and protesting and getting your voice heard does not mean tipping over trash cans and you know, cussing people out and being frustrated and throwing bottles of like urine, and it was some nasty stuff going on out there in previous protest events I haven't went to, but I've heard about them. And I've always kind of like stepped back, like nobody's gonna listen to me, you know, like whatever. And I don't know, I used to teach at a beauty school that was predominantly Vietnamese students, and they didn't speak very much English, but I was able to get them to learn. I was able to assist them in learning, and they actually graduated. So I felt like there must be some type of a unique gift that God gave me to use for people.
So when you got there, I started recording you. You started going to the crowd, and at that particular moment, the police had their loudspeaker on, and you were like, "Hey, I have the mic now. It's my turn," and you started in, and then from there you proceeded up onto the steps of, I think it was a furniture store.
Yeah, Aaron's Furniture Store.
So could you take us through some of these moments of what you experienced and felt in some of these, I'd say, high tense moments, because you had people in your face with the flag and the sticks, and
yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So. Let me get some water. So yeah, that moment, I remember that because, in fact, I look back and I was kind of chuckle now because it was quite funny with my reaction. It was like the zealous confidence aspect of me, as far as my personality, just came out like mama bear mode, and the guy had this stick with the black flag on it, trying to hit the camera, the lens to the camera, and I was like, oh no, we can't have that, And my thing was just I strong-armed him and got the stick away and kind of shoved him back, get off of me, And everybody was all up in, the social distancing, I used it to my advantage, back up, I need you to give me 50 feet. E40's got this song called 6 Feet, and so I thought about that when I said it, I'm gonna need you to back up, just give me some space and get out of my face, because it was oh, how does she come in here? We've been out here for days, And I have bled in these streets. I have relatives that have bled in these streets. You guys, it is not about Black Lives Matter. Excuse my police. Black Lives Matter. But I'm a police. Ignorance don't though. The police. Let me talk. That's ignorance. You understand me? That right there is an example of what ignorance is. You hear me? Because I have relatives. I have friends and associates that are officers. If you ever in your life, you know what time it is. I need you to get out of my face. I'm aware. Back up out of my face. Back up off my face. Back up out of my face. As I was saying, excuse me, I've bled in these. I know it's like to starve. I know it's like my cousin was by a security guard. Do you understand me? But at the end of the day, I don't go around making that right to take it out on everybody else. These officers give a damn about these black people. They care about black people. They don't give a damn about black people. I care right now for all of the police.
You guys don't.
Respect because these people risk their life every single day, dying out here to protect us. Just the other day, it was the United States. The police. And I mean, with a school. I should.
Hey. The police. I'm gonna get my smoke for real. The police. The police. Fuck the police. And anybody that ride with them, their ass too. They can get blown up.
Some type of what is the word I'm looking for? They felt
Empowered.
Yeah, obligated. Or they had some kind of right over me to get her versus me. And the moment they got in front of the camera, they just had a tantrum. It was okay, now you're in front of the camera and you're trying to poke the lens out of it. What does that have to do with the black life right now? I'm waiting, and it was nothing, so I just had to shut that down real quick and move on to the next fire and put that one out,
Well, you was putting out a lot of fires that night, because, just even that, in that situation, you had probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 people in different moments. I remember there was 2 black guys, one was, and you turn around to both of them, then you had a couple of white kids, and like you said, with the flag, and then eventually someone grabbed the camera.
Oh, yeah. And
that was one of the news stations here in town.
Yeah, I think it was 8, wasn't it?
Okay, it might have been 8. And like you said, you're going from fire to fire, putting things out. And then I remember you went into the street, and at this moment, the police said, "We have now declared this a riot," and they said, "We are going to shoot tear gas."
Yeah.
And your back was facing the police officers at this point. And I was in front of you, and I said, "They're shooting tear gas." I've been in the middle of tear gas, okay? And so I had to back up because I know what that stuff does.
Yeah.
You stayed there, and so what happened after that?
Disperse the area now. CS gas is being used. Disperse from the area.
These officers here is
Disperse the area now.
Watch out, they're shooting gas.
Disperse from the area. Disperse the area now. See if gas is being used. Disperse from the area.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I was just reliving it in my head, and I remember you got like you did the most sincere gesture to get my attention, like, "Hey, this is tear gas," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah." It didn't dawn on me. It was like, okay, but I have something to say, you know, like I'm not done talking. I felt interrupted, and it's like, just, you know, that part alone, I'm very stubborn in ways when I try to get something out. And I felt as though that was interrupting, and it was like with the tear gas that I needed to get people to hear exactly. They were starting to cooperate and take steps back, but although I don't know how long they had been there, because this was like they had been going on for quite some time, right? Like I got there maybe closer towards the middle end of it.
They usually go all night.
Yeah.
This was probably an hour and a half into
them
being there at this point.
Wow, see, that was pretty live then, and at a climax of the event, and I don't know well, first of all, it felt like all I remember was seeing, like, you know, when 4th of July, the fireworks, and you see like the stream of like smoke in the sky, right, and so I like seeing like this cloud of stuff, and I always wear prescription glasses, but I didn't have them on, and I'm like, am I tripping? Wait, that's right, that's gas. And so like I start choking, and it felt more or less like pepper spray. It wasn't like there was a little extra, you know, you will hear the scream, like it was this wretched scream that I had never screamed before, hence as to why my voice is gone. But I was doing a lot of yelling overall, trying to get heard over people, but it was intense, that moment right there. I got in my car, and I remember trying, because they were like, no, this is it. And so I was trying to reverse. I don't know if the police may have thought when I first pulled up on scene, like if I'm just somebody like another one, you know, and I'm trying to reverse my car, but my AC was on. So you have all that gas coming in the vents. And I remember like, I cannot, like a panic, okay? So I'm extra about everything, and I got out, and I'm like, it's burning. And I remember some people are hollering medic, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, get back, leave me alone, don't touch me. You know, like, they can't take me away now, I'm just now getting hurt. And that's when a gentleman a white guy came and brought me a bottle of water, and a gal was standing there too and asked, well, what do you want me to do with this? I'm like, well, no, just pour it on me. And so they're like, well, here, you do it. They were scared to get a black girl's hair wet. You know, never get a black woman's hair wet. And so I had poured it on my face, and I felt instant relief once the water hit me. I was able to, it wasn't like pepper spray where it keeps burning, you know. And so as I'm walking off trying to talk to other people, because at first I didn't want any water, I didn't want nothing on me, and another gal came up, a protester, was like, no, here, you need to let me rinse your eyes, and I'm like, no, they're fine, I'm completely okay. And they started burning. I'm like, yeah, rinse my eyes, go ahead. So, yeah.
So then I came back after the smoke and tear gas kind of cleared. I came back, and you was between, at this point, you was between the protesters and the line of officers walking toward, they were going eastbound on Lombard, walking toward Interstate.
Yeah.
And you, at that point, you was, like I said, you was between the protesters and the police, and two of the protesters came out with like newspaper stands or garbage cans.
Yeah.
And
like, what was that? Okay, so excuse me, because that was one of the moments where my language got a little bit left, because it was like, you know, when you tell, like, I have kids too, so I'll reference to that, not to say anybody's immature or anything, but there were some immature actions, but they're adults. So granted, I'm seeing, first there was bottles flying and stuff left and right, and I'm thinking, okay, I am in the trenches here. But when I looked and seeing them dragging the Oregonian, or today's paper stand, and it was two, it was a green one and a red one, and they were already chained together, so they're dragging them into the middle of the street, and I'm like, now what in the heck would you do that for? What does that have to do with a black life? Please explain to me, because I'm still trying to figure it out. If you don't get this, and then so they dipped off, because the police, that line, I mean, it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger's times 100, and they were all consistently moving in sync. It was quite impressive. I felt like it was the drill team on steroids, because they had it going on. And I was like, wait a minute, oh, they're coming. So I'm like, well, wait. So I try to help, and I'm like, I need some help here. So one person tried to help me, and I just looped it around and drug it to a standpoint of where I thought was far enough out of the way, which it wasn't, but I wasn't going to try and break my back or anything. I'm just like, it's enough, that'll work. We don't do that, you know. It was just like, that's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm here to stop, you know, like, and I wanted people to see the interactions. I wanted to mediate both sides. And for me, as a member in this community, and having the opportunity to have experienced both sides before in life, at this point, it's bigger than just being black or white. It's bigger than not being heard, you know, and what does that look like? I just lost my train of thought as I was talking just now, because it just skipped my mind, and I'll come back to it. But I wanted people to know that the police weren't there to hurt, you know, like they weren't there to try to inflict pain. They weren't there to try to do wrong. They were there, and if the protesters would have gone about it appropriately and sought out the licensure and stuff that they needed to, they could have had them as escorts, right, and not on defense. And so at this point, it's not just an offense-defense kind of thing, but only because they were pushed into that. You know, if these were the officers, and we're talking about Portland Police here, right? Whereas if these were officers that were going to shoot a black man, like, and let me just say this for the record, like, what they did to those black people that were shot and killed down, it was horrible. You know, I'm not discrediting that, but again, let's look at the bigger picture here. Not every black man is going to rape every white woman, and not every white officer is going to shoot a black man. And that's something that people have to realize, that these officers have kids they have to go home to. You know, they have wives and husbands, or a cat or a dog, or just the fact that they're human, right? And they want to get up tomorrow and serve again. You know, and to do that, it's like ushering in a church. I ushered for a very long time, and I remember when I got saved, I said, Lord, if I could just clean the toilets of the church, I promise I will give my life to you. And my desire to just clean the toilets in a church bathroom was such a burning, relentless desire. I could never put it in enough words. And that moment was when I gained my humility for Christ, you know, and serving people, picking up snotty tissues and rags, and you know, helping them out in and out of the church, no matter how bad my feet hurt. So looking at that as the guys in blue, you know, my mom had a drug bust when we were little, you know, and they came in with guns going and stuff, but I'm still alive and breathing. I can honestly say today that the officers that I've met, their intent is not to kill a black person. And I'm not saying all officers, I'm saying the ones, especially here in Portland, you know, that there's a certain respect level that they have. That's what I was going to say. Thank you very much. So it's like in the community, when you have the officers wanting to be acknowledged in the community and respected, and then you have the people in the community wanting to be heard and respected. It's like the love languages, right? Like men want to be respected to give love, and women want to feel loved to give respect. And it's like this never-ending battle. However, somebody has to be logical enough to sit down, and we have community meetings. Well, before COVID, I worked for a nonprofit. They had community meetings all the time over in the precinct, where we would sit down and talk to PPD and talk about the gang violence and the numbers and how they're going up and what they can do to make things better. And that's when you find a common ground with someone and you use that, right? Like I had an officer friend, Officer Burt Led here in PPD, that I met him by trying to help somebody else, and he helped me by encouraging me. But he found a common ground. He found something that we both had in common, and that was to see the streets do better, to do better ourselves, and to help one another. And with that being said, like that's what ignited the fire, and that's what burned. So as long as, and I wanted to be that for that moment. That's why I was there. I wanted to be that common ground for the protesters. I wanted to be that common ground for the police. And I remember begging them, like, please just stop. Please just wait a minute. Let me just talk to them. And then I'd run back to the other side and try to, listen, you guys, I got them holding off for a minute, but it can only go for so much longer. Just wait, please. You guys listen and just take a step back. You take 4 steps back. I promise they will take one more. And it worked for a minute, and then I don't know what happened.
Right.
But yeah.
So from that, and there's some more things I want to ask you. We're going to get deeper into this, but from that, I saw you have a little interview with the Caucasian lady over by the gas station.
Oh yeah.
Now, how did that go? Because I saw that toward the very end, she kind of got upset or triggered a little bit off, just to give it Trump a little.
Came out here to make sure that they don't take it even further. You
get what I'm saying? When people protest, they're supposed to go petition for a license and inform the police, hey, we're going to be protesting. We need you to be aware of that. So therefore the police can properly staff the event and make sure that it is safe and nobody gets hurt.
Even if the protest is against the police?
It's not against the police. The protest is against whoever shot those people and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the protest and them being against the police, that's the problem. Why are we against the police? Show me that my Black Lives Matter by not wasting my time on that bull. Show me that my Black Lives Matter with my son, 14 years old, gangbanging in JDH, in and out of jail with no mentor. He ain't got to have a black mentor. And half these black brothers out here don't give a damn about my son anyway. Half of them trying to kill him. And me too. I just had a black man get mad at me because I asked his girlfriend, what side do you identify with, your white side or black side? Because you got to choose. Oh, it's convenient for you to be this side today? Oh, it's convenient for you to be this side today? I'm like everybody else, they give a damn about us being black. They don't care about us being black. So to keep it all the way real, don't make it even harder for me. Come again?
You don't think Trump is racist?
Oh, I can't stand Trump with a passion. But let me tell you one thing, I respect this gangster though. You know why? Because he gets his money.
Okay.
He gets his money. Period.
We have like completely different.
No, you don't. And we may have. But at the end of the day, tell me what it's like to be black.
I want to hear another person's perspective.
Yeah, it's my perspective, and you're laughing at it. That right there shows me that my life don't matter to you. You just chuckled.
I did not.
You just chuckled.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay,
I
then
said
what was
we
that?
have-
No, baby, you have it incorrect. I get paid more than you, and no, I don't have the same education as you, but I have experience, and it's called life. And if you would get some from behind this camera and come take a step on my side and know what it's like, that the moment you put that camera down and the moment you go home and shower and lay down and go to sleep, I'm still black. You will never know. Thank you. She was burning. If I can make anyone's blood boil, hers was boiling. Like I had put it on broil or on high on the stove. Okay, so she started asking me numerous of questions. I don't remember all from the dialogue, but what got me was she chuckled. She chuckled in the middle of me answering something about Trump or something or other. And I was like, oh, yeah, so you find this funny. It was like that black girl moment of like, oh, okay. You know, so I had to remember I can't put my finger up because that's not polite. But, you know, I really want to just be like, no, wait a minute. However, yeah, so it was quite interesting. Although I think she was expecting me to be on her team, a rah-rah chaos, and I was on team like, no, let's keep it all the way real, you know, and that means transparency. And so, yeah, Trump, I'm not a Trump, so I'm not going to ever rock a Trump bumper sticker or even vote for him to a certain extent. However, what I will respect about Trump is that he gets his money, and it takes a skilled person with a different lens, completely different lens, right, to be able to acquire what all he's acquired throughout his duration of life and since he's been in the office, right? And I would like to say that I think I was more frustrated with that whole aspect of it, like, you know, like for example, when we were all supposed to get our the stimulus, and something happened because he called it back and wanted his face on the checks. It was all kind of rumors going around, but then like his sense of humor is quite funny too. Sometimes when you actually kind of watch him, like I'll laugh like, dude's funny. What? So you know, I mean,
He talks like just a regular person.
yeah, he's actually kind of hood. You know, like.
Yeah, yes,
Trump got a little
yes, he
gangster
is.
to him. Yeah, you know, he's all, man, whatever. I want to hear that. Yeah. In the middle of a meeting. You can't do that. I don't care, you know, like whatever. Next. Drink some water, you know, something like that. So,
Right,
yeah.
right.
And I like that about him because he just keeps it real. I mean, it's not always for my benefit or yours or anyone else's, but his person, who he is as a person, is different than his job and his point of view in life, right? And that's one thing that we have to look at too. And that's why I get why they don't talk politics and religion and we're at work and in schools, because I've had almost some knockdown, drag out fights about my Jesus, you know what I mean? To where it's like, oh, you what you say? You know, and it's like, okay, that's not even holy, Rayon. You can't act like that. But then like, who are you? You know, it's like, so I have to pump the brakes and bring it back, you know, and that's kind of like that moment between her and I. It was like, oh no, you're not going to cut the camera off now, honey, because I heard, no, there's more to come. You know, like, slow your roll, boo. You know, and she was like, I didn't laugh. It's okay. No, it's all good. You know, she's like, well, I just can't wait for it to be my turn. And I'm like, oh, okay, yep, it will be once you hit stop. And I'm going to still keep going, you know, so.
Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff. So now I want to move into the stuff that's deeper. I saw one interaction with you and some younger black kids.
Yeah.
And I want to bring this up because of the fact I think your message had a lot to do with the black community.
Yes.
And when I saw that, I was bothered in that moment because the state that I see a lot of our community in. And I saw that interaction with them and you almost like because you weren't down with the cause of causing violence and being destructive, it was almost like you're one of them type of thing, or you're the sellout because you're not being gangster and being hood or acting hard. You had more wisdom, more knowledge of how to handle these type of situations where they wanted to buck up to you. So what is your message in regards to that, in regards to the black community?
Thank you. I almost started crying because my grandma marched after King, and you'll hear me say that in the video. And she was 16 years old, and so I've always had a level of integrity in how I conduct myself because of that, more or less. The message that I have for our community is that we can't be critics and spectate and I want to say contraindications, but that is not the word. But we can't contradict ourselves. It takes more heart and courage to be a gangster. I respect that. But it takes even the more to be versatile. For an example, to be able to have some transferable skills and go into an office and articulate and communicate effectively and know what you're talking about, to where when you sit down and have conversations like the ones we're having, or, you know, even at a grocery store, you are able to expand outside of, oh, the weather sure does look nice, you know, outside, and, you know, oh, those are sure some nice shoes you have on. And in our community, and I'm going to just keep it real,
Please do.
It's always about the Jordans, the chick with the small waist, the big booty, and the light skin, or the dark skin, or the, you know, the white girl, or the dollar. You know, it's like a lot of our black men are used as trophy brothers, to sort of speak, for in a lot of biracial relationships, versus them acknowledging or being made out to be babies, right? Because they're spoiled rotten, or they're that thug or gangbanger because their mom was on drugs and they didn't have the understanding of what the disease of addiction is like, nor did anybody take the time to explain it to them, and they had to go out there and make ends meet so therefore their kids can eat because the system is broken. And it is pro-white and not for blacks. But how can we go about changing that? Because we can't change it being inside Oregon State Penitentiary talking about a shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? We have to be able to make that systemic change by actually getting educations like college degrees and studying and going to law school and telling the homies, hey, bro, no, I can't kick it today. No, I'm not finna go out and get loaded. No, actually, I'm gonna go home and go to bed. And yeah, it's okay for me to go home to my one wife and be okay with that, because there's a level of humility that you accept, that you take on. Like, no, I'm not no snitch. And it's oftentimes where they'll be like, oh, that, you know, like even out there, like it was like I'm a snitch, or during the riot, like I had somebody threaten to beat me up and all that because I wasn't on their side. And it's like, I'm me. I'm not from a gang, never have been from a gang, and won't gang bang. I do know people that have chosen that route. Also, I know people that have chosen the complete opposite. You know, and so I can't sit here and say that my life was complete tormented hell growing up. There were some painful things and struggles that I have been through, but also I've risen above that and a survivor of a lot, you know. And so our black brothers and sisters can help this as dynamic in the middle of this pandemic. We can still rise. In fact, if not ever, this is now the time to be that example as and act as though how we want to be treated. That means that instead of you sitting up there, like you've seen a couple of them were resistant to me, and it was like, oh, okay, like one brother was like, oh yeah, you know, well, man, you choosing their side. And I'm like, okay, well, are you gonna come and take my son to school when there's people picking on him and he's getting bullied? Are you gonna teach him how to be a black man when everybody else around is confused and don't know how to be? Because at what point can I say this is an example of what a black man in America is supposed to be like, and this is what a black man is now and don't want to be like, when all he has is the don't want to be likes instead of the want to be likes, because you don't want to take the time out and say, oh, well, that ain't my, all he said was, well, that ain't my son, you know, my kids is good. And that's that narrow-minded, simplistic lifestyle and mentality that a lot of us have. And I say us because I don't like pointing the finger, you know, but like, as long as your kids are okay, then never mind what Rihanna's going through with hers, right? Because yours is fine. Oh, as long as the woman that you're dating right now, daughter, feels special because you're with her mom, it's okay. But never mind the fact that you got 5 other kids to be taken care of that you choose not to take care of or even acknowledge exist. You know, my son just had a birthday June 3rd, and his father didn't even call him and wish him happy birthday. So that is why I wanted to make sure I had that one-on-one conversation with the smaller groups, because it was like, this is me. So what can you say to me right now? Because what you're doing is you're out here protesting, saying that you support the movement, but you don't have any morals and values and integrity or even standards to even have a movement on. So you're just moving with the way the wind blows. But if you move strategic and you have some substance and some merit, then you might actually you can make an impact. You know, you can actually throw a punch and it's going to impact. You're not just going to throw a blow and miss or throw your shoulder out, you know? So that's more like, and I got turned up just...
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
You're good.
I felt that in my core, you know, like it hurts. It hurts so much because it's like, and not just our black men, because oftentimes we put a lot of weight on the black man, but like, what about our black women that are trying to learn what it's like to be a young lady, but all you have is a mother who's been a prostitute and a crackhead at the age of 14, but her mom, but that, let's not devalue that, right? Because I'm talking about my mom, and she did the best she could with what she had to work with. My grandmother did the best she could with what she had to work with, and they were so, they played key roles in my life. You know, as to why I have one tattoo, I got it at 31 years old, and it's a black rose, and that signifies the black women in my family, because, you know, those thorns on the outside, they prick you and they hurt when you first pick up that rose, but when you actually can get past that and you smell it, it's the most beautiful scent ever, you know, outside of when they try to imitate it in a perfume bottle. And I like how that just flowed right there, because when you take the scent of a rose and you put it in perfume, it stinks. But when you actually pick up a rose, a fresh rose, and you smell it, it's the beautiful smell you'll ever smell. And when you look at the fact that you compare that to our black women, and you look at how, you know, when you have the white girls that are trying to be black, and then you have the black girls that are trying to be white and not accepting themselves as in who they are, it stinks. This one's hating on that one's hating on that one, and it has absolutely nothing to do with color. It has everything to do with their own insecurities and self-doubt or worth, right? And having that confidence. And I'm all about biracial relationships. I think it's dope. My uncle, he has married a white wife, and, you know, I felt, oh, this Caucasian boy got at me today. I went to take my dad somewhere, and he called himself trying to talk to me, and I was like, oh my goodness, you are such a square and so handsome. And I was like, oh my goodness. He tried talking to me, because oftentimes, me being a boisterous black woman, you wouldn't walk up and be like, oh, hey, how you doing? Can I get your number? You might be like, so, yeah, the Seahawks are playing tonight. Yeah, let's go. You know, and then I'm like, well, nobody ever wants to talk to me, you know. So all that to say, like, the diversity, I wanted them to know that if they're going to come out here and walk, know what you're walking for. And that was that moment my grandmother had with her father before she marched after King in Montgomery, Alabama. He said, well, Becky, do you know why it is that you're marching after Dr. King? And my grandma said yes, and she went from pump and play from A to Z. And he said, and that's exactly correct. And if you believe that in your heart of hearts, then you march. And my grandmother, she marched until she had holes in her shoes, and she would tell me stories about, you know, she would wet toilet paper and put them at the bottom of her shoe during that march, just to keep her the cement from burning her feet, because there were holes at the bottom of her sneakers. And she was pregnant with my uncle, and that's what I wanted them to know. If you're going to be out here for a reason and have some integrity and standards for yourself. Don't be out here with the next scheming move to wait for a store to get busted open so you can go snatch some handbags and sell them, but because you are actually out here standing for something, which means that when the police ask you to leave, you'll just leave. You won't be, insubordinate and defiant and completely rebellious, you know? So, yeah, there was a lot to that.
Yeah. There's a lot to that, and it sounds like I'm hearing you say that it's really about the conduct of a character,
Yes.
personality, and with that, do you feel we're in 2020? Do you feel like me as a black man or you as a black woman cannot make it? Do you feel that you're oppressed?
No, in fact, not at all. I feel that because my thing is, I used to say, you know, when the pandemic hit, I was like, what, a recession? Like, we've been in that. But no, I actually just was able to finance a car. And I actually have seen a lot of black businesses start up, and I'm starting my own. And I've never been that type of poor me type of a chick, right? And now I think what has happened is there's been the stigma of black people are oppressed and they're going through it and they don't have anything and they won't ever be anything. And then you have the generations that begin to believe that, and now they're living in that. Well, it's like the law of attraction. What you say in the Bible, right? Like what you say, what you think and what you say will manifest itself into an action. And there are only certain signs that show that certain situations exist, which mean that my brother told me that all the time. Like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, certain signs show that certain situations exist, meaning that this right here, this outcome of this, or this, the symptoms of this shows that you have this disease or this bacteria or this issue, right? This sickness. So you going out there and selling drugs and getting caught up and going to jail. Now, yes, guess what? Now you're a felon. Now you got to fight that much harder to become somebody and to get a job. Now you have this child that you don't see because you're out here ripping and running, doing nothing, spin around Boulevard and turn around Avenue. And at the end of the day, you know, you're trying to figure out, well, how did I get here? Well, now you are no different than Zeus, who's chasing his tail in my living room because you're just doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's insanity. And then now you have the system that we look at Jim Crow, for example, to go with that too. You have a child in class acting out. The first thing that child wants to do is get out of class. And what do? We grant this child that right to leave class by saying, get out of my class and go sit in the detention hall. Now, we're in the middle of reading. This child is still sitting in the detention hall. So now that comprehensive reading that they're supposed to be getting, they're not getting. So now when it's time to go on to the next class and they can't understand the book because they set out the last class because of their behaviors. So it's accommodating the BS, the garbage, the nonsense. You know what I mean? And so that's what the oppression is like. I don't think we're oppressed by far. I think there are some technical difficulties as far as the structure of the system that we have that is not designed for us to be as successful as the next white person. That part is true. And when I say that, I mean as far as, you know, you've heard the white privilege and, you know, blacks aren't fortunate to have this and that. Like, for example, I went to, what's a good one? My insurance claim. And when I had to total out my vehicle, they wanted to do a full-on investigation to think that I wasn't, to make sure that I wasn't doing any type of insurance fraud. When in all actuality, if it was somebody else that called in, they would have just processed it, no problem. You know, or, you know, when you get to the front and you want to, when you go in the store shopping, and Walgreens, not bad, maybe I shouldn't name drop. But when you go into some convenient places and you go shopping and they follow you throughout the entire mall or the entire store thinking you're going to take something like, I don't have the money to pay for it. And then now you have this black person who wants to act out like you don't have the money to pay for it because now you're getting mad that you feel like you got to prove that you got to pay for it. Like you don't have to believe that. You don't have to have the Louis bag to say you're balling when you can have that in your account and actually show that when you go up and you purchase your groceries with cash and not food stamps. And no, don't knock it because I do get 10. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people that do get food stamps and there's nothing wrong with that. But using that to your advantage, you know, taking a step up. So that right there, I just wanted to answer that from my perspective and what I believe in. But more or less, those that do feel like they are at that point where I am oppressed and the government is making me oppressed. Trump is making me oppressed because of this. And it's like, okay, well, how can you counteract that? Because I'm about the solution. The problem gets me nowhere. You know what I mean? I know what the problem is, but how can we get to the solution? What is the solution? Well, if I don't want to be over here, you know, living on subsidized housing and acting ignorant, then I'm going to go to school and get a good education and use that stepping stool for public housing, accept the public housing that they give me because it's a blessing. and I'm gonna take time out while my rent is less than everyone else's and not go buy the latest pair of Jordans, but I'm gonna take that time out to put that money in a CD or a trust fund for my kids and for myself so I can establish a savings account. Because I was on I had Section 8 right before I got married at one point, and I had this is my first time ever saving up. I had $7,000 saved. It's called I forgot the program, but it's a work program where everything that I was paying a month for my rent, like $300 a month I would pay, they would match that entirely 50-50. And at the end of that 5 years, I get all of that money to myself, tax-free, and do what I please. And that money was to put up for a house or to save, for hard times like this, to have some money to pull out. So, those are the things like using and taking advantage of what is out there.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I want to ask one more question, then I want to see if anybody's online asking questions.
Okay.
Pro-cop or anti-cop? Because the protesters are completely anti-cop. And I heard you say something about some cops, and you might have a testimony if you like sharing it.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to say I'm pro-cop, honey, because first of all, I will call the police in a heartbeat if somebody, okay? Because I'm not trying to go to jail. I've been there, and that is not the place you want to be, and especially now. My thing, and I say with COVID, but it's like I've been a germaphobe, so like this is nothing for me. But like y'all just now washing your hands as many times a day, like bro, I've been rinsing my meat and veggies. Like, what are you talking about? What? And what's with the toilet paper on the shortage? But we'll get back to that. I'm not gonna go there. But I say that to say that no, I'm not a snitch, and I say that in my community, a snitch is somebody that is a private or a secret informant, where they are working with the police to tell on whoever's out there selling dope or whatever have you, whatnot, right? That's not my job as an officer. I personally desire to be an investigator myself because honey, my ex-husband will tell you I will investigate some stuff. Now, if you want an investigator on your hands, that would be me. But these people, I say these people like they're different or like they're hybrids of the breed of human, like avatars or something. They're police officers. And sometimes, and don't get it twisted, because I've had to remind some officers about themselves as far as, like, you are just human, just like me, However, I acknowledge the authority position that you have because you have not abused it with me. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that means that when you are a person of authority, you have to conduct yourself completely different. And it sucks, but it's the reality of how psychology works with the brain. Now, I know that I'm about 5'9", maybe about 100 pounds wet on a good day, right? I can't get up and go, me screaming and acting loud and boisterous and aggressive could intimidate somebody who's an introvert who doesn't have the slightest clue as to what's going on. And not to say they're scary, but I'm doing the most, right? So now we have police, right, an officer that has this authority position that is trying to display like, hey, look, I'm in power. I need you to respect that so I don't have to use it. Then you have with the shootings, because that's what this is about too, the people that have been shot wronglessly, you have an officer that has authority that is misusing that, right? So I'm always going to be pro-cop. I have a friend of mine, and I call him a friend. He's my buddy, my comrade, my everything. He's been, and now that I think about it, he feels more, and him and his family, right, feel more like family to me in such a short amount of time than my family sometimes. And I'm going to say why, because Officer Burlett has put himself, he found that common with me. And not only that, but he's never misused his authority and his power. And he's always respected me as a woman, not a black woman, not a drug addict, not a felon, but a woman who needs help. And not even that, because oftentimes we get caught up about the sex, the color, the dollar. And it's not even about that. When I have a lot of environmentally induced mental health struggles, right? God has blessed me and I have overcome. But I struggle with anxiety and I struggle with PTSD. And anybody that doesn't know what having chronic anxiety is like, or PTSD so severe where the psychologist says that it's on a level of a vet being released home from a war. That's my everyday life. And when this whole COVID-19 hit, I had lost my job, and I was like, okay, look, Berlin, did you hear what's going down? Are you watching the news? Because they finna shut the whole city down. They come in with the Navy SEAls. Look, they finna martial laws. Look, what we gonna do? Because I can't go buy a firearm, you know. And he was like, look, Ray, he laughed. He said, if that happens, I promise you, I got you. I said, okay, cool. He said, if that happens, I got your back 110 full. I'll stand right there with you with my firearm and help you out. And I said, okay. So, you know, it got a little heated when, you know, they started shutting down the states and not allowing people in or out. I said, now we're getting close, Bartlett. You still got my back because I'm going to have to call on you. You know what I'm saying? Don't leave me in here. And the day hasn't come yet that he turned his back on me. And knowing that he was able to come to my house and bring me food, a food box, and they were the best organic vegetarian refried beans ever. I think they were made with black beans. They were bomb and they came in a can. But like, I didn't have any food at the time, and he came and brought me some. And I had been struggling with, we're keeping it real, right? I had been struggling with my disease of addiction. And I just need a second. I have been struggling with heroin and methamphetamine. And my son had ran away and had been actively gangbanging to the point where, you know, he had turned on me. And I remember him saying, like, what can I do to help you? You know, I felt as though there is no help for me. Like, just go live your life. Like, you don't know what this is like. You know, like, why do you give it? Why do you care? You know, and I don't have nothing for you. Like, I can't do nothing, and I might not even be anybody one day. Like, he believed in me. He was like, no, don't talk like that. You are somebody, and you're gonna be somebody. And when you're at your best, you're unstoppable. And I want to see you at your best. So what can I do? And I started with a list of things that I needed, right? And I said, well, I need the NA book to recovery, the step working book. If I had that and I could work on that, it kind of helped keep my mind occupied. And I said, you know, but I have my kid, my son, my 10-year-old, and I need to know, like, that he's going to be okay. You know, my dog needs to be fed, and, you know, and he was like, and I said, you know, I really want to go to detox, but the first time I went to detox, I left because I was in intensive care watch. My detox had got to that extent of where they needed the actual hospital to support me or to watch me so closely because it could take a turn for the worst. And so I got frustrated and left, and then I went back again, and I got kicked out, and I went back again, and, you know, I just finally said, you know what, I can just do this if I just put my mind to it. He didn't enable me. He knew exactly how to maintain a level of professionalism and respect and still help me, you know, and that was calling up, hey, I'm going to call your son and see if he wants to go. Can I box with him, you know, in the morning time and help him? Because my son is he's on the heavier side. We're all built like that. And he's a fine young boy. And he took the time out to, you know, extend to go take him boxing in the morning because he's a UFC fighter or something like that. I mean, you know, the ones that be doing that cage stuff and all that. Like, and he wanted to take time out to do that with my son and didn't ask for $1. Didn't ask for me to go. Didn't advise me to go sign him up for a program. Didn't advise for me to go or tell me, oh, yeah, well, you know, you just go do it. Just go get clean. And, you know, maybe your kids can go with whoever at the time. Or, oh, you just told me that you're struggling with alcohol and drugs, so let me call CPS. He didn't do that. What he did is he rolled up his sleeves. He cuffed up his pants. And he got in there and he helped me. And the first day he came to my house, I met him. I was helping a young girl that came to my house. I mean, she was underage and she was with a man that was older. They were getting high. she was doing the lying of her age and all that. When she disclosed how young she was, when I seen the officer come to my house, I said, oh, that was anti-police, right, attitude, as in, oh, God, what are the police here for? What do they want, And so he came, asked a couple questions if she was all right. He seen that she was fine. They advocated for her to stay with, she wanted to stay with me, advocated for that. That happened, and then some things shifted where she ended up leaving. But the second, he would pop up at my house now, random days, times, and hours. Not ungodly hours, but colored people time, as they say. We like to sleep in until about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, he would pop up like 9, 10 o'clock, or, hey, I'm in the area. And that in the area to me means about an hour, 2 hours out. In the area to him means like, I'm all right, I'll be there in about 5, 10 minutes and show up on time. So I was like, okay, yeah. But it felt good that every time he came, my house was in order. There was, drugs all over the place, the kids unkept and all that. They were taken care of. But the main thing that got me, twice he came, and some other officers came. I'm going to tell you that one after this, because that was a good one too when my son ran away. But he came off duty. That means that he had clocked off, you guys. Not on the clock, getting paid. Him and his wife and his daughter came. They came to my house just to follow up and check on us to see how we were doing, bringing gifts. They didn't ask for any of it back. They didn't leave everything was brand new. And it wasn't like they made a deal of how much they had gave and invested into our lives as far as wanting to see the best, and that right there, if that would have been $1,000 worth of gifts at that moment, it was $1 million and plus sum of the gesture, because they came through without me having to ask for it, or her, or my kids. They came through on a common level. Like, it wasn't like I didn't have any furniture in my house at the time. We were sitting on the floor, like in the felony flats at that, right? So I was right there on 72nd and Flayville. And my dog jumped and ran and jumped, and his wife's beautiful woman came in with a beautiful little girl. They came in, and it wasn't like they were acting bougie, like they couldn't sit down. Like, they came in and sat down and copped a squat with us. And that right there meant more to me than anything, because you get some people that would turn their nose up or look like, oh no, and here they are, like, they my brothers and sisters, and I could tell that they didn't see color. And I could tell that at that point I didn't see color either. Or his badge. Didn't matter to me. He didn't have it on. And the times that he came to my house to check up on me, to see how I was doing, he never once came in his uniform. He never once came on a day that he was working. And that means more to me than life itself, because I thought about if I could just take enough heroin and fill it up in a syringe and just shoot it, I'll go to sleep and it'll be a smooth ride that I never felt before, and I just won't wake up. But it wasn't until he said that you are not a disappointment to your grandmother, you are not a disappointment to your kids, that they do love you, and you are a darn good parent, and you will be that motivational speaker. You will have your nonprofit one day. You will become somebody, and you will find another job. Like, this is not the end of the world, Brianna, but you got to have a little faith yourself. And I said, well, thank God. God said the faith of a mustard seed, because mine is just that much right now. And there was a time where my son had ran away, and he ran away to his dad's house. And I was terrified. I didn't know where this boy was. And if you ever had a child, you ever been somewhere out and about, like at a parade or something, and you lose a child? I mean, kids, yes. I mean, I frown upon the kid leashes that I see people with. It's just not my thing. But if I had one for this boy that was like stainless steel and unbreakable, I would probably get one. But I was scared and terrified. And I didn't know what to do. And I knew that I couldn't go to the streets and handle it, because that would only wreak havoc for me. And it wouldn't bring him back home. But there were times where I was knocking on doors, coming in, busting down doors for my son. And these officers, it was about, I can't even count. I think about at least 5 of them, 5 to 7 officers that came into my one little felony flat apartment. And I was like tired. I was ready to go to sleep. And I remember they were like, nope, we're coming in, we're setting up shop. And I'm like, setting up what? Now,
It just sounds weird.
I
like,
know the
you
boy is missing.
Right.
Yeah. I'm like, now wait a minute. Now I gotta. Look, I tried to do it all. Respectful. I said, so I'm just gonna go in here and put my pajamas on. But yeah, the door is unlocked, and they're like, oh yeah, thank you, Miss Coleman. We're gonna go ahead and set up the things here and the computer here, and they got one on the phone and one on the computer and a whole other laptop there, and they got waves and radios. And next thing you know, I'm looking at my son and the dog, and they're looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna sleep here tonight then. So I went. I went in the back, got dressed in my pajamas, and sat there, and I was falling asleep. And before you know it, they had eyes on my son. They had the helicopters around where he was. They had the dogs. I mean, everything, the whole nine, and that was impressive. You guys, if you actually sit back and get your biased opinions and put them to the side and watch how these people work when they're working for you, it was like I hired the best law firm or investigators to come find my baby that money could buy, and it was for free. And you know why? I use that analogy because they get paid for their job, but you can never get paid enough when you're putting your life on the line for somebody that you don't know. And I have to say that again because you guys, they're putting their life on the line for someone they don't know, which means that there's not that immediate connection. There's not that, okay, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my uncle, that's my, you know what I'm saying? It's different when you're going to go look for your child and that's your child. It's really different when it ain't yours. And I'm keeping it real. There's, when you got our black community in one area and you got one kid showing up to school with holes in their shoes and the one got the latest Jordans on, you think that mom finna go, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna do an act of kindness and not put it on Facebook, but just do it and buy a cheaper pair of shoes for you and buy an equally as too expensive or even more expensive for another kid because I seen when they came in class, they had some holes in their shoes, instead of allowing your child to talk about them and you looking at them like, oh, why they got that on? It's like, no. And so that's what I felt. And my baby came back home in one piece. And I said, please bring him back in one piece. They brought him back in one piece. There was a situation, we was at a Rite Aid, and somebody was up in there doing something they didn't have no business doing. And somehow the police got called. But not just the police, but the canine. Okay? Now, I have a dog. This tripped me out because it's a dog, my dog I know. That dog I don't know, and that dog, by experience, gets down with the get down with whoever. So I'm yelling at the lady at Rite Aid, don't open the door! No! Don't lock me in here, let me out! I'm trying to get out because they were trying to close the person in, and I'm trying to get out, but yet I don't want to go out because the dog is there. And the officer looking like, what are you screaming like that for? I said the dog. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm okay, I'm sorry. Move the dog out of the way. But that's what I wish all officers would be like all over the world. All over the world. Our grandfather was racist. He couldn't stand white people, and it was so sad because he would take us to the parades and put us on their car. He'd find the nice, expensive car you could ever find, and put us on top of their roof and let us watch the parade. And they want to ask, can the kids get up? I wish somebody would. I wouldn't care if my car cost me $200. Let me catch somebody on the roof of my car watching the parade, But and I'd be like, no, Grandma, I don't want to go with Grandpa this year. May he rest in peace. But it was sad because people rob themselves of so much when they're very biased to certain things. And when I say it's okay to have your prejudices against certain things, if that's just you, that's who you are. I don't judge. I'm a non-judgmental person. But primarily, when we're talking about judging people, how can you be the judge? What you eat don't make me poop. So when you know what I mean? Like, when I get up and I eat vegetables, and you can't tell whether or not if I'm eating enough fruits and vegetables and drinking enough water, if I'm hydrated, it's not going to hydrate you. So why does it matter? And so that, so to speak, is like, and then that's another thing, because during the riot, I don't know if you heard me or not, but I said, now what in the world would you do that for? I probably used another word. But I said, now why would you do that? Somebody had through something, and it was like, now what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Why is it that you feel it's okay to throw something at somebody or threaten to beat somebody down because they ask someone a question, and at the end of the day, that's their point and their view. If you had the opportunity to be an officer and protect and serve, and you, as a career, would you choose that? You make a choice to say, I'm going to sell dope. I know with selling dope, I'm going to get caught. I could end up using it and become my best customer. My kids may find it and get a hold of it. My kids will see me living this lifestyle and decide to get a hold of that too. Or you can decide to say, you know what, I'm going to do something different with myself today. And I'm only talking about me and my culture as far as black people. And for those that want to use the excuse as in, I didn't have this growing up, I didn't have that, I had to live like this. That just because, do you know that half these officers out here, especially in Portland, parents did not pay for them to go to Harvard to be Portland police officers? You know what I'm saying? This is not like we in like LA or like, I mean, thank you, Kate, because we are on the map when they was like, no, we are not going to do that to Oregon because they are not going for it. Oregon, we're trying to ride, but at a certain extent, like, come on now, you got to learn how to use your wisdom, like use your head for more than a hat rack. Would you like somebody to judge you for all the stuff that you done did that you don't talk about? You know what I'm saying? So why judge somebody because they choose to protect and serve? That's like making fun of the smart kid in the classroom and calling them the teacher's pet. Maybe if you would have wanted to have been like that teacher's pet, or maybe let's start from the beginning. What hatched first, the chicken or the egg? Now, here's not what hatched first, but what happened first. Which one was it? I don't know. But I know in this scenario, if there was never a teacher's pet and there was never a bully, half the kids that were teachers' pets wouldn't be trying to show that they're bullies and do half the things like the Columbine shootings and all that stuff that they've done. And half the bullies wouldn't do things like shoot all the black people that they feel like they can because they have the authority to do so and not, you know. But it's a learned behavior. It's something seen, it's sought, and then done. So first they see it and then they do it. But at some point, if we play out the tape and rewind it to the very beginning of their life, babies aren't born to even identify color. And we're not colored, people of color. It's called melanin. You have eomelanin and pheomelanin. There's only two. And if you break it down, people that are albino don't have any melanin at all. So at that point, what is it to you? Because melanin is not white. Melanin is not black. It's melanin. So we put that name on black and white. White people aren't white. They come in different tones and shades. You know, black people, I wish you would say, I'm a black woman, yes, but I do not look black. And my father is as black as night, but beautiful. So who am I to say white or black, yellow, green, purple? It doesn't matter. You know?
Wow. Well, I appreciate, man. Some good stuff. Some good stuff. So, Mr. Man who's behind the camera, is there questions?
There are some questions. So the first question is, Miss Ray, what can we do as a society to raise young, strong men and women who will desire to support and cultivate their communities and families? And he also wants to know when you can run for office.
Wow. Hey! I think I need a little bit more schooling. So what can we do as in who? What is that question pertaining to? We as people?
Society in general.
Okay, thank you. I like that answer. So, that was a pop quiz there, by the way. So what we can do, honestly, as far as people is, you know, I live off biblical principles. Those that don't have to. I'm not saying to, you know, if you decide to, that's even more better. That for you as for me as what I believe, but to find something that you believe in, and truly that you believe into your core. When you see that somebody needs help, my main thing, and to keep it simple, is to practice what you preach. If you, for example, I believe that when it comes down to making a change, you have to be that one to make a change. It starts with one person, then another one, because we're creatures of habit and of what we see. You know, like mice, they can't count. I mean, they're muscle memory, you know, so they'll go to the same spot. And if you put a roadblock in there, they only know to keep going there. They don't know to jump over it. So they'll go back, you know. So it's like when you're out and you're at work every day and you know that you have the opportunity to take this moment and make a change, do that. If it's going to the bank and saying, because you know that you can't go to the bank and cash your check because you don't have an ID, you just have an Oregon State Penitentiary ID because you went to jail or whatever, then at that point, use that to implement change. Being a leader is self-driven, and every single person has the potential to be a leader. It's a matter of not if they want to. So, and it's okay. And you have to be okay with making a fool of yourself sometimes. So being set apart and set different, there is something that you can do. You just have to find out what it is. I don't know your career choice. I don't know a path or what you're doing for your career, but I do know that you have that desire. And that's exactly what you need right there. You getting online and asking me that question tells me that you too are willing to take that next step. So pay it forward. Then an act of kindness. You know, when you go to Starbucks and you buy a coffee and you buy it and for the one behind you, that's happened to me a couple times. I just get so excited when it happens. And I've done that before. You know, don't be the one to stop. Keep it going. You know, and I'm not saying go out and spend your money on coffee and buy it for someone else, but you know, when I on my Facebook and I go live, I always dare someone to step outside their comfort zone and do something nice for someone that has done something wrong to you that hurt your feelings, or someone you may not care for because of whatever reason, and actually step out and do something for them, because what it does is it forces your brain to now look at them from a different perspective. It's like assertive engagement, you know, and being able to see the positive and not the negative. Did that answer that question? Yeah. If I missed something, you guys answering these questions, do not hesitate to say, no, I didn't mean that, and hit it again, because I will definitely, I want to make sure that I answer the questions. You know, it's good.
All right, this one is from, her username is Beast Mode Mom.
Oh.
But she says, what can I do as a white female to help those who feel as if they are oppressed by me?
You better, first of all, beast mode, give it up. What you can do, that, you know what? First of all, that's love. I got a whole lot of love for you, because the fact that you are even thinking about or have that question is phenomenal. And that means that your desire to actually, that you genuinely care. And what you can do is give them a compliment. When you, as us women, we can tell when there's another woman next to us and they're feeling a little less confident than you are, right? So whether or not because you got that natural Coke bottle shape, or because you got a little bit more brains or whatever, if you see that there's someone around you that they may not obviously can appear, because you can be able to tell who has insecurities and low self-esteem. So let's just get rid of that stigma. Compliment another woman or someone who feels oppressed by you. I don't know what feeling oppressed by someone really means, because I believe that that's just their own insecurities. You know, you can't oppress anyone if you're not doing nothing wrong to them. So let's get that part correct, right? So therefore, when somebody's struggling with some self-esteem issues or some insecurities, help them build their self. It is true, and studies have shown that the human brain, if you get up and you say, I can do it, and you have self-talks in the mirror every day, you will develop confidence. So practice makes perfect. But however, keep in mind that we will never be perfect. So as long as you are humble, and when you're around someone and you see that you got it and they don't, then make sure you look out for them, and also go forward and compliment them, and get that oppression, that oppressive mentality out of your head, because you're not oppression and you're not oppressing anyone, you know, and I don't want you to go around feeling inadequate and insecure and feeling bad about yourself, because you are who you are, and somebody else is struggling with insecurities and they feel as though you have one up on them. Now, also, when you, and I think, I won't run with that question. I was going to, but I don't want to do that. I think what she means by that, and correct me if I'm wrong, oftentimes as a white woman, a black woman will feel oppressed by her, because the black men always choose the white women, right? And so white men are now like, oh, I got me a white bride, I got a white chick, and it's like, well, what about the black women that you don't have babies with? What about your mama's black? All that. And so that's where that stigma can kind of come from. Did she respond to that? Is that what she kind of?
She said thank you.
Oh, okay.
So I think, yeah.
I'll leave it there. Okay. But yeah.
All right. And I got another question, and it goes, do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement has been hijacked to be more about anti-cop, anti-government, instead of focusing actually on black lives?
Yes. Who is that?
His username is Stealth Rush.
All right. Yeah, you rushed right on up in there with that one. You should have been out there with me. Tag teaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Black Lives Matter was hijacked by some of everything. I mean, and that's why that's why I had just been like, I'm gonna take my time. That's why I was fed up with all of it, because it was like, now something that was meant for great has been taken and altered and manipulated and diluted and diluted and diluted and diluted and replicated all the way to now it doesn't even exist and stand for what it originally stood for. And that's the problem. And not only that, and that's not against the actual group, the Black Lives Matter, those people that actually started it. Hey, look, keep doing it. I encourage you to. My thing is that don't taint it and water it down. It has to keep its authenticity. Something to be Afrocentric cannot be tainted and watered down. Something that is real cannot be altered at all. Meaning that when you throw up your fist, it's a movement. It's not just a hand gesture. It's a lifestyle. It's a belief. It's a core fundamental, right? So, So I would say that that's my perspective. And now that we have addressed that, because that's a problem for me, right? That has happened. So let's not do that. And let's not do that and water down Black Lives Matter for political views and hating the police as a platform. Let's not use it as a platform for that, but let's use it for what it is, and that's pro-Black. Meaning that you can show that Black Lives Matter should be a lifestyle, period. I don't want to hear nothing about all of that extra, this nonsense to me. If you get up every day and you treat a Black person the same that you treat a white person, at that point, you have now definitely demonstrated that a Black life matters. You get what I'm saying? For example, that cop that came to my house and brought me food, and they came and sat down and ate with me, and offered me help when I needed it. That showed that my life mattered then. You know what I'm saying? That's what that looks like, and that's how that operates. It's not about doing it on Tuesday and on a Friday evening when you're conveniently available. That means doing it when you have to inconvenience yourself, and I call it being on-time obedient. And obedience is better than sacrifice when we're looking at things from the biblical perspective, because God said to seek me in the hidden, I will reward you openly. But he said obedience is better than sacrifice, meaning that he will still accept your sacrifice, right? Because you made a sacrificial gesture. But however, imagine how blessed you would be if you just did it when you were supposed to do it. If God said, take these 2 loaves, these two fish and these 5 loaves of bread, and bring them to me. But it was a boy, right? Little boy in the Bible that did that. He brought the fish to God, or was a man. The 2 loaves and the 2 loaves, the 2 fish and the 5 loaves. Anyways, if God said, for example, if God came down from heaven and said, he asked me to do the same thing, to reenact it, right? If I said, okay, God, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in about 15, 30 minutes. Do you mind? I'll be there in a minute. And God is sitting there like, well. And now I bring it, say, here you go, God. And you're like, oh, that's not good enough. That's not what I asked for. So since you did that here, I'm going to feed maybe 300 people instead of feeding the multitude. Right? So but that goes hand in hand with knowing too. Like my mom just always telling me the story about the man on the rooftop that was drowning. The world came to an end and started to flood. Did you ever hear that? And he's like, I'm waiting on my higher power, man. I'm waiting on my higher power. And it was like, but bro, you didn't see when he came with the helicopter and he sent somebody with a life raft on the boat, and you still standing there like, hello, those was all signs from God, right? Like, so I have to constantly remind myself that if I'm not paying attention to the leaves that are on the tree inside of the forest, I won't ever see that bee before I get stung. I won't ever see the caterpillar before it turns into a butterfly, because I'm not paying any attention to that caterpillar because it looks so ugly and it's just sitting there hanging on a leaf, right? So like it's having that lens, I believe, and seeing life for what it truly is, and not just looking at the whole picture, but looking at the detail in the picture.
All right, now I have a question.
Okay.
So one of my favorite parts watching you that night was you walking around to all these little scrawny white kids going, if you really want to help Black lives, tutor my kids.
Yes.
Did anybody respond to you?
No. Not one. And, well, at that moment or now, well, because there was one gentleman that was like, oh, yeah, let me get your info. I got you. For the record, no, he did not call at all. But no, Somebody
my
did.
wife said that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
My wife-
No, he was just trying to get a little. Yeah, she said, "High five, wifey." That's what I'm talking about. But no, like, and the people that were listening, like, some of them were like, "Yeah." Yeah, and then one, he was so cute. He had his glasses on. I didn't wear my glasses today because I would have cried if something happened to him. But he had his glasses on and he was sweating and walking. And he said, "But because of us and because of this, that's why things are being changed. And things have been implemented and statues have been taken down." And I said, "Well, statues? Okay. I don't know what a statue got to do with any of that, but I'm asking to show Black Lives Matter, because that's what you're out here saying." So one person said, I think one just, I've seen a lot of looks of like, "Wow, that's a really good idea. I'm going to do that." But none of them actually were intrigued or interested in knowing why was I saying that over and over and over again. None of them could care less at the fact that, hey, I'm actually out here telling you that I got 2 boys right now, literally right now, that need to be tutored and that need teachers and that need mentors and support to show them how to skateboard and show them how to, play hoops or football, or show them how to geek out on some computers and math, and like none of them had an interest in it. And that was a moment of like, whoa, what is this? What is this? I am in the trenches of what right now? And how can I make this better? And I don't know. I had to like go back and like turn everything off and like burn some. I would say burn some sage, but I didn't burn no sage. I went home and took me a hot shower and relaxed because I was too through. And then when I woke up trying to talk, I was like, oh. So I got it in. But then did anybody go back out and protest last night?
They were at the Justice Center trying to pick fights with the police.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Day 35.
Day 35 days in a row.
And was there any impact that they leave out from there? Did they stop earlier than anything? Like, did anything change?
They set fire to that big elk statue downtown, and the city removed the elk statue today. That's about all they did.
Wow. Now, let me say something to that, because here's the reality. Removing statues is not going to show me that my life matters. That shows me that you had that much money to put that sucker up there and take it down. And that's all that money that I can use for my education of kids. How you can help would be to get up and implement that. When you go to work and you know you're tired, for example, unemployment, you got to process that stuff and you got to get it done. And you're like, "Man, I'm tired. I just don't want to work overtime." Or you may not even be allowed to. I don't know. Take that extra drive. That's that paying it forward. That's that act of kindness. When you really don't feel like it and you do it, you process this one anyways because you know they're waiting on it. Or when you know that you don't feel like bagging up nobody's groceries and walking them outside, that's what you do. Implementing change would not be to take a statue down, nor would it be setting it on fire. What we need is for people to get out and vote. We need for people to get out and actually pass around and start things and start legislators and get statutes implemented and laws and stuff implemented within the system, because it's the system that's broken. It's not the people working in the system. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Now, see, I felt that in my pinky toe because that's the reality of it right now. I just had an aha moment. This entire time, we as people have been pointing the finger at each other for being black, white, rich, poor, for a system that was designed for it, which means it's a system. It is. It's something that's there that has worked all this time, so it keeps working. And what are we doing? We're working in that system, and we know that it's broken. We see the system, so what can we do? You're in the system, so how can you do that? Implement change. Poach some ideas to your boss. Start some things. Get your neighbors. Start signing. Start petitioning for stuff. If you see that we need things to change here, for an example, if you know, and this is another thing too, like, 'cause this isn't about establishing a system. This is about when I walk past your car, don't lock your doors like I'm gonna rob you. 'Cause honey, I don't want nothing you got. Trust me, especially if you come with going downtown. Now, that being said, when you're out and about, you may not have. What you have are two entities thinking that they're assuming that this one doesn't like me because of this, and this one thinks they're better and doesn't like me because of this, when really we all have something in common. So finding that common ground, implementing change, starting up, getting things, because in another thing, let me get some water first because I have to, this is getting real. When we're talking about implementing, the main key focus and the primary goal should be strategy. You cannot possibly think that you are doing an official protest that's going to be effective without having all your I's dotted and T's crossed. I would love to protest, but I haven't seen anything on social media, the news, or any type of flyer that says, hey, we're going to be protesting here, and this is what we're protesting for. Ray Charles and Mariah Carey should be able to walk into the protest and know Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles holding hands together, know exactly what it is you're protesting about. When I went to that riot, because that's exactly what it was, and you can't possibly think that now that since you guys are taking protests and turning them into riots, that we're going to continue to have that jurisdiction to be able to do that. Pretty soon, somebody with the jurisdiction to say no more. If the day Trump decided to get a hair of his bottom and do that, then what? Because now here it is. You've got white people, because that's what all I seen there. So excuse me, I'm calling it because this is the story, right? For what it is.
That's true.
Downtown, right? Burning up crap, regulating. I see more regulators. You heard that song, Regulators, Mount Up by Warren G. That is exactly what was going down. I see more gangster white boys in 1 minute than I had seen in my life. And I'm telling you the truth. I said, oh, but they really going in though. And serious, he came up to me like, yeah, but there's change because of that. Shut your mouth. And I was like, oh no. But when you leave, I'm gonna be talking again.
But he did.
Right.
Yeah.
But he did.
And all of them did, actually.
Right. Oh yeah, they did. That's why I was like, okay, you can talk, but when you leave, I'm gonna be talking again. I'll be quiet for now. And it was like, hold on, that was regulating. And so it was like, I'm gonna respect that gangster, right? That gangster mean like they ism, they feng shui of swag and their seriousness and, you know, their mentality of authority and firmness. And so it was like, whoa, this just got real. And so, but they missed the whole key point. You can't fight tired, wore out. You can't fight not knowing how to punch. You can't fight if you're blindfolded. I mean, even Bruce Lee did, but at the end of the day, the reality is you would get judo chopped if you come at me with a blindfold on, because I'm going to be able to hit all the points because you can't see me, right? And that being said, you cannot go into a place blind. You need to be able to strategize these protest events. Make sure that people are knowing, so that way you can actually have some black people with you to be like, bro, good God, because then what's going to happen? You're going to meet a black friend or a white friend, and y'all going to help one get their credit right, the other one going to help them and show them how to cook some soul food or how to twerk or whatever their common ground is, and then we all going to be one happy family. I will plan on going to another protest event. I like to be the person of surprise, so I'm not going to say which one, but I will be at another one, and I plan to come with my gang. If I can get some people to come with me to the next one, if find me on Facebook, I'll let you know. I'm going to be in close connections with you guys, because what I want to do is get a bunch of people at the next protest to do some line dancing. If we broke out with the Kang Wang and the what's the other one, the wobble and all that, yeah, the cha cha, and what was the country one when they used to do it? No, not that one. Was it the two-step when they do and it has a song that go with it and they kick it and twirl around and they,
Boots Scoot Boogie?
Yeah, no, not that one. Is it the Boots Scoot Boogie when they kick and they twirl and they, you know what I'm talking about?
Or Cupid Shuffle.
Yeah, and they kick the boot, and it's a real country song. But yeah, I think it might be the boot scooting booty one. Yeah, because that was always cute to me. I tried doing it, but I didn't have no rhythm with it. But yeah, I feel like if we just find a way to make it more positive, it might be more effective, and be more fun and inviting. Because I was terrified. I thought it was a whole white pride movement going on. When I found out they were on MLK burning down the hair store, which was like where all the most black women spend their money, is kind of sad. But it's like, y'all now I can't get up and look cute because you done burned down the hair store. Like, Who does that? You know, so like invite people, make it more inviting and warming and not just so raw. Like nobody wants to go to that. I don't even want to go to that. Not on the level of where you feel like you can come up and approach me. I'm going to go down there on defense. I got a job to do. And that's to mediate and keep the peace between everybody. That was positioned, right, in an authority and God had gave me, right? That's so anybody want to know what position that is. That's just a good one. God created and said go, and I went, and that's really what ignited me was when I heard the Lord speak and say, no, you need to go down there now, and you need to tell them that this needs to stop and it's at hand. Enough is enough, you know, and that's kind of how I got it. And I was like, well, all right, I'm going, because if I don't, I'm gonna get in trouble. You know, trying to be obedient child of God. So yeah.
Well,
Everything you want to tell the world?
Yes. I want to say thank you, first of all, you guys. I appreciate the fact that you guys, I just want to say, Lord, first I want to give honor and glory to God. I want to thank God first because He has given us all gifts and mantles and the ability. But what He did was He's cleared your guys' eyes. You know, He put like the mud on your eyes so you can see, and for you to be able to be in tune with Him, to know to even sit me down, to be able to answer some questions, and to be able to acknowledge and know that I had a word, I had something I had to say, and I did. And I would have said, why me? I'm not good enough. But once I kicked into just mama bear mode, it was like, yeah, no, beast mode mom, I like that. You know, it was like I went into beast mode myself, like, you know, I too got something to say. And if a lot of black people stop shutting their mouths of the positive things, saying that they don't have nothing to say or nobody's going to listen to them, even white people, because remember, again, it's not about color, right? We all have, there's two different melanins and that's it. There's no third or fourth and fifth. You can't combine the two together and get a whole new one. It doesn't work that way. So at the end of the day, it's like, what can we do as a nation, as a human race? And that's to acknowledge that we are a human race. And if we're not careful, we will be extinct based off of people's ignorance, accidents, and don't cares. And it shouldn't be that way. You know, when God created us, He created us in the image of Him, not our image. Because when I look in the mirror, I don't see what God sees. But I have to pray and ask God to show me who I am and show me and allow me to see myself how He sees me and to see other people how He sees them. If you're rich or if you're wealthier than the next person, we don't want to have to call on Robin Hood to come steal from the rich and give to the poor. Those that have should give to those that are less fortunate to have. Now, and one thing I'm also saying, this is a side note, people that stand on corners with signs up saying, please give me money, give them food, give them clothes, don't give them money. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I have to get up here every single day and put my pride aside and turn in a job application and ask, can I work for you? Can I do this? When I know that my credentials now, I'm going to tell you, I got some transferable skills, honey, that Harvard cannot pay for, okay? And so when I look for work, because I'm trying to find a job now, and so it's like little pitches like that you hear people talk about in the stores. If you have that opportunity to make that happen, do so. But more or less, I forgot where I was going, but, you know, just make sure that you take the time out to see that whatever you do, do it with your being pure, genuine. Do it out of love, do it out of kindness, and use a lot of wisdom. You know, in any area in your life that you see where you may need to work on to do better because there's something that you don't like about yourself, don't use it as the go-to point or the focus of your self-esteem. Use that as the ammunition and the drive. I got a life story to tell, and one day you guys will hear it. Follow me on Facebook, Rayana Amadi. Everything that I've been through in life.
You want to spell that so they have it?
Yeah, R as in Romeo, A-E-O-N as in Nancy, A, and that's Amadi, A for Alpha, A-M-A-D-I. So R-A-E-O-N-A, A-M-A-D-I is my marital last name. I'm divorced now, so you can also find me under Rayana Coleman. Not Coleman Rayana, because I have two Facebooks, but find the Facebook that says Rayana Coleman, and you'll see it's a picture of me with glasses on and it says boss. That's the one I'm operating from. With that, I also have a GoFundMe for empowering people by holding hands. It's a nonprofit that I'm starting up. If you want to know more about that too, look into it. I want to say thank you because I got a donor that donated, and I want to give a big shout out to them because it was like I got a phone call, right? It was like, I got your number offline, because I was yelling it out, and I'm happy that they were listening to it because they did call. And to know that I have made an impact to such person of authority and such of such great success means so much. So that being said, don't ever think that you're not good enough or you're not capable of doing it. All you have to do is think about it. Trying is out of the picture. Once you've thought about it, now you just do it. And each step that you take, even if you don't succeed the first time, the second, third, or fourth, eventually you're going to do it. I took my driver's test about 5-10 times, and I finally got it. Right, I finally passed. But that you just have to be relentless in all that you do, and don't ever think that a stupid question is done because it's the one unasked.
Amen.
Amen.
I appreciate your time, and I thank you for being out there that night, because it was encouraging to see. Because myself, Robert, we've been in the midst of it for a long time, and there's not enough people doing what you did. And I've been trying to advocate that, because what that group does is pure anarchy. It's destructive, and it does not help nobody. And you have media saying, look at the black community, and you go out there and you witness firsthand what you saw was majority white kids.
Yep.
And then the bad name comes upon the black community. So, like I said, it was encouraging to see that. And that's why when you got there, I was like, cameras in your face. Let it rip.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, we spend so much time. We go out and we film. They set fires. We film the police actions. We film them throwing stuff at the police. So I mean, that's what we've been seeing every night. And then when he and I hooked up that night, he was so excited to show me his footage, because all my footage was just the normal, boring, flashbangs and tear gas. Mm-hmm. And he was so excited to show me, and he started showing me, and I see his footage, and his footage of the action was amazing. I goes, great. So I was like, yeah, sweet, cool.
Right.
That's awesome. Good job. And then he's like, no. Check out this lady that I saw. Yeah. And he starts filming it, and I started getting so excited just because, I was just like, I can't believe that this happened. I cannot believe that you were there at this time and you got to see all this stuff, because what you did, just the courage that you had to go out there and tell these scrawny little white ninjas out there to stop acting stupid, and if you really want to help, do this, do that, and not all cops are racist, because people don't see that. All people see is people shouting and screaming all cops are racist, or other things that they say, and they, if you're a cop, you're an evil person, and in seeing you walk out there into the middle of them, I mean, it was amazing. And there's been a lot of comments of people I could just go through it. They're saying that you're brave. They want to give you a hug. They can't believe that you were able to do what you did. There's at least 30 or 40 people that say they want to come up and give you a hug and thank you for what you did, because they don't even have the guts to do it. And you've touched a lot of people. And after we get done doing, the editing and putting, showing people during the interview the clips of what happened and the things that you were talking about, you're going to reach millions of people. Yeah. And
Amen.
You're going to make an impact.
Amen. When I first got saved, that moment I was talking about the church and cleaning the toilets, I didn't know who or what I was supposed to do, but I knew that I just had a desire to serve God. And don't get it twisted, I've gotten lost, and not lost, but I've, my roadmap may have, got me detoured a little bit, and, but God has always rerouted me right back to that path of where He picks me up and carries me, and this right here is an example. And I heard him say, because having the gift of that prophetic mantle, it oftentimes, like my mind, the enemy tries to attack my mind and tries to make me believe everything that doctors and the chemical imbalances and stuff like that, and it's not true. I have to silence my ears. And so I heard him as clear as day when he said that the platform that I'm going to put you on so I can get the glory. And I said, you know, as I was praying before we went live, was that God, that you get the glory for this, because if it had not been for you, I would not be here today. And I am so thankful, and it is such an honor to be able to stand up and say that I am somebody. And I don't see myself as somebody better than or less than, but I see myself today as God sees me, and that's a child of the Most High. And that I declare and can decree anything in this world, and it shall come to pass. And that anything that is not like God, God will deal with. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So don't burn yourself out trying to make a change in a way to where you're not changing anything because you're unable to, because you're not working on you first. Make sure you're right first and take that step out, because even then, in the midst of when he puts you up and say, I'm taking you and you're going to do this for me so I can get the glory, he's going to use you whether you want to be used or not. And there's testimonies of that. And all of that other stuff will fall off in between, because there's somebody that's watching this live right now that has been struggling with, I want to be able to do it and I want to make a change, but I don't know how because I got this monkey on my back, or I'm struggling with this. But God is here to tell you that in the trying and in the doing of, I will take it. Just go forth and be obedient to me, and I will give you exactly what it is that you're asking for, the 7 times 7 and the overflow. And watch what happens. Just get up and say, okay, God, I submit my will and my all to you, and I will go, and I say yes to your will, and I recline my can I haves, and I'm asking you to give and pour into me so I too can pour into someone else. That's what you need. I don't know who you are, and I just ask that God will bless you if you just listen to him and just be obedient, on time obedient. Amen. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. You can have me back anytime. It'd be a pleasure.